I'm going to major on three bits of software. I'm going to start off and show you Bulletproof, which is the brand new software by Red Giant. Then I'm going to show you a little bit of Pluralize, and then some fun and tricks and the sorts of things that you can do with Magic Bullet looks. Just before we start though, does anyone use Red Giant stuff already? Yep. So has anyone downloaded the Bulletproof beta? I've been told off for calling it beta. Excellent. And did anyone use Pluralize and looks as well? Great. Okay. A bit of a smattering. So what I'll do is I'll just, when I introduce each particular one, I'll briefly remind you what it's all about and then show you some other things about it. The other official title or unofficial title of this is pain. So these are the 5 main pain points, joy points of video production, because we know, and this is the gag, that filmmaking is easy, isn't it? You just buy a camera, press record, and then edit your footage. You might have to do this. You might have to do loads of these things. Actually, I did this presentation last week, and somebody said you've got way too many bullets on your bullet point on your screen. This is the point, because all these are disciplines that you have to do when you're filmmaking. All these are pain points that you have to solve. And by the way, I'm going to zoom in as and when I can to make sure I can zoom into the screen. Here we go. So occasionally I'll zoom in, and if you can't see, or if you want me to zoom into something, just give me a mention to, hey, zoom in that, I can't read it. So the idea is to introduce these 5 pain points within Bulletproof. So this is Bulletproof. Let's jump over here, and Bulletproof has a welcome screen which looks like this, which talks about those 5 particular points. So when you've ingested stuff, or when you shot things onto your camera, then you need to import them, you need to ingest them, and then you need to sort through all those hundreds and hundreds of files that you've got, then review them, make a rough cut, add metadata, yay, metadata, and then export them into various different formats. So all these are things that aren't particularly fun to do because you just want to get on with your creative vision. So this is why the software has these 5 main topics, or headings if you like, or views. So import, organize, review, refine, and export. And the idea is that Bulletproof solves these and connects all of those particular pain points in one piece of software. By the way, I forgot to mention right at the beginning that since we'll be talking about stuff, I'll be talking about things for around almost 2 hours. And as Shoshana said, you can ask me questions at the end. But if that's not a good enough reason for staying for the end, we'll also be giving away some free stuff. So if that sounds like a motivation to stay, isn't it? So please stay to the end. All right. That's your bribe. So Bulletproof is designed to talk to your camera card. Here we've got my camera card from my Canon 7D, which is I've got plugged in my compact flash card into my USB 3 reader. And the best practice is the faster that your connection device and the faster your card, then the faster you can import footage into your computer. And I've also got, at the other side of my computer, plugged into the other USB port. I'll try not to wave this around as much because it's a drive, but this is my external hard drive. So the plan is to do the professional workflow, which is transferring footage from your camera card onto your external hard drive so that you're not filling up your laptop full of footage. I mean, that's in the big bumper book of best practice, which I'm sure B&H will be selling shortly. Then it means that you must really back up stuff to multiple sources at once so that you can make sure that you've actually got a backup of your carefully filmed footage. So here we go. These are the clips from my Canon 7D from my back garden, illustrating how much gardening I still need to do and cut down these dandelions. And the idea is you're able to select a number of clips from the card to actually choose which particular ones you want to import. And you can just click each one, or you can shift click and select a range. You can select import all, or you can individually select them, command clicking each one, or my favorite computer term, you can click each one discontiguously. I know, I did say that. So anyway, you could just hit import all, and there's lots of small little helping devices in the software to be able to help you on your way. For example, you can, where are we going here? So you can select all the video files on your camera card, or you can select all the ones that you haven't yet imported. So lots of different ways to actually just select and choose which particular clips you want to ingest, or offload, I think the language is, offload from your card onto your hard drive. And when you're doing that, what you can do is you can then choose where you want them to go, because Bulletproof creates a catalog on the external hard drive, and it stores all its data about these clips in the catalog. Then when it transfers the clips to your hard drive, it stores those clips next to the catalog. And so the other advantage of having an external hard drive is that you can then plug it into another computer or give it to your editor, and they've got all those clips together with all the information that's stored inside the catalog. And when you are digitizing your files, you have the ability to choose, let's see, I could hit the plus button here, choose a new folder. I'm going to call these flowers, and oh, flowers is already taken. I've already got one there called flowers. Well, let's call it flowers 2. Flowers, even better, flowers B and H. There we go. Flowers. This is the English spelling. Flowers. There we go. So then I can choose what I want to do. So I want to import the media only, or I can import the all files and media, which respects the hierarchy on the camera card. So this means that you can stay native to your, all the way through your production process. And you can also then, if I zoom in again here, you can then choose to place files in the selected location with this file structure, or using the month, date and year, and more importantly, the hours, minutes and seconds. And this automatically creates the time and the date or date stamps your folder. And the important thing about this is that you might be on set, you might be making multiple copies or multiple shoots and then dragging another card and then ingesting footage, so that at least you have these separated by date. Another thing you could do whilst you're here is to press the plus button and create a folder called Camera A or Camera B. So this means that you can then ingest your footage, and then you're using good practice to be able to keep those cameras separately, just in case you wanted to synchronize your footage to external audio, which we'll be talking about in a second. So as well as doing that, you can, over here, back up your clips. And this is automatically set to be on when you're using Bulletproof. And you can choose the same folder path as your import, and you can also date stamp this. And you can choose, importantly, a separate location for your backups. Because the important thing is that you need to have your files stored on your main drive and on a backup drive. And because a file doesn't exist these days until it exists in, it's 3 locations now, isn't it? So then you can keep adding or clicking the add and adding backup tasks so that you can do all this backup in one go. And then, if that wasn't enough for you, you can, here we go, you can add keywords to clips. So I created one earlier on called flowers. Let's try flowers 2. Here we go. So flowers exterior, I could type in garden, and these are all separated as different keywords. And this means that when I ingest the footage, these keywords are added to these clips automatically, so that I can then search through the catalog based on those keywords. And if you update a keyword, you can then save it as a preset. And you know how at Red Giant we like presets? So this means that you can save yourself a lot of time. So in fact, there's a third unofficial title for this presentation. It's how to get to the pub earlier. And one of these is to use save new preset, just read go to the pub, because why bother typing in all those particular keywords when you can save a preset? And what if you've updated your preset here, which I have done, flowers 2. Let's modify flowers 2, and I'll hit that and it says yes, do you want to modify this? Yes please, modify preset. So this is just really to show you that because Red Giant are filmmakers, then it means that we've gone through these pain processes and we understand all the small little things which can save you time on set. And help you go to the pub earlier. So, right, okay, we've got some keywords on there, and let's jump over here. Bulletproof has got two kind of modes, if you like, in some of these panels. This is conversational mode. This is the friendly conversational icon, which tells you that you can work quickly, because every time you see one of these yellow items, it's a drop-down menu, which means that you can access stuff like, here we go, access keyword presets pretty quickly just by choosing that yellow button. And the other button here is layout mode, which allows you still to set up different presets and also organize your folders, but this is where you type in the keywords. So you'll notice here some extra things, as well as the ability to add keyword presets. You can actually add metadata and color presets as well. So I'll come back to these in a second, but I'm just going to set these two to none, because all I want to do is to apply keyword presets to these clips. And yes, we haven't actually yet ingested anything, and so the real world use of this is you would put your card in your card reader and hit import after choosing a keyword preset. Much faster than it's taken me to explain it, but just really wanted to highlight the process. So for this, I'm going to be very naughty here and not back up my clips just to save plugging in yet another series of drives. But I'm sure don't you be naughty when you're in production. So anyway, so I'm going to hit Start Import, and as I start to import, it moves over to Organize View, and as it's importing, you can see here, let's zoom in a little bit more, we've got not only the import in progress, but the checksum. And this is because Bulletproof works with a cyclic redundancy check. So it does the same checksum process as DITs use when they transfer footage for large productions. It's because you absolutely have to make sure that you've got your files from your camera card onto your hard drive, because there's that scary moment when you have to reformat it and shoot all over the footage. Shoot all over the card and replace your footage. So it's the same as a DIT process. By the way, I've noticed that sometimes people are referring to DITs as DITs. Are they? That just sounds wrong to me. But anyway, where's my DIT? So, DITs I shall be using.
Do you have to specify the hard drive and the cards?
Oh, when you, the question was, do you have to specify the location? The location, let's set up here. This is one thing I could show you. When you create a catalog, new catalog, it asks you where you want to save it. And so by default, if you don't have a drive plugged in, it's set to go to the documents folder of your computer. And you can save the clips to a different location too, but it's a good idea to save the clips to the same location as the catalog file so that you can have these clips linked out on the same drive. So I'm going to just hit cancel there because I want to stay with this catalog. And the other thing is that there's no save item in any of the menus, because Bulletproof works as a persistent database, so it remembers everything that you do, and so you don't have to hit save, and if you whatever you've done, it then records it, and so there's multiple undo, and so you can use the standard keyboard shortcuts, Control Z. Patrick keeps telling me off for that, and apparently it's schedule as well, not schedule. And I should really have been using shots of my aluminium spice rack, which contains herbs, some of which are basil and oregano. But we've saved that. It's just flowers for now. Anyway, and I drive on the wrong side of the road. Great. OK, so talking of keyboard shortcuts, I know, great, isn't it? Keyboard shortcuts. Every time somebody tells you a keyboard shortcut, I know what you think. That every time you learn a new one, you're losing a childhood memory. However, what happens is that these keyboard shortcuts help you navigate in between each of these views much more easily. And so Command 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 are the way to switch between Import View and over here, Organize View. I can just hit Command 2 and you switch in between views. So this means it's very much more quick. Translate that to some grammatical sentence, to actually move in between these views. And what's that? That's not enough for you? You'd like a nice swishy two-finger gesture on your MacBook Pro pad? Yes, you can do that as well. So now, not only is Bulletproof making yourself more healthy by not giving you tendinitis from doing too much clicking, you can do keyboard shortcuts, it's also more fun because you can switch between views. And joking aside, this means that you can stay on the trackpad and just jump in between views and progress with your work more quickly. So here we go with the catalog. Here's the catalog view, or the organized view, where you can see your whole catalog of images. And this is the folder in which I have transferred my files. But I'm just going to click up here because this is my entire catalog. And so these are all the clips that I've ingested previously. And so what I want to do is to find just those particular flower clips. So what you can do is you can rate these clips. So let me just jump in here. Okay, so you can just hover over each of these clips and rate them as a number of stars. Somebody mentioned this the other day. This is like Lightroom for video, so it's like a similar type of idea, because you can also flag and reject and add a circle take. And when you add a circle take, you get a little indication on an icon on the thumbnail, and you can also color your color labels red and so forth. So you can mark these things up very quickly. And if you just press the 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 keyboard shortcuts without a modifier key, so if I hit 4, it goes for 4 stars, or 3 or 5, so let's say 4 there. So you can actually go through using the arrow keys left and right and rate clips very quickly. But also you can select a number of clips. Let's select this one discontiguously. And then I can right click and set flag or star rating on multiple clips all at the same time. And that's a theme that also permeates throughout the software, the ability to be able to choose and rate multiple clips all in one go. And just in case that wasn't enough for you, you can go up to metadata and you can set keywords for those particular clips too. So you can set keywords after you've ingested them if you've forgotten them. So once I've rated a number of clips, what you can do is to go up to the search button up here, and you can turn this off and on with Command F, but I've clicked here to hit search. I'm going to type in, well, let's have a look. What can I search for? Let's go search for a star rating, which is equal to, let's say, 4 stars. And that brings up for all the clips that are rated with 4 stars in the entire catalog. And then I think, well, I don't want all of those clips. I want the ones that were related to the flower clips that I ingested. So you can press this button and you can do a Boolean search or a combined search, so that you can really drill down through your catalog and search for, well, this is interesting, all these particular parameters, including the EXIF data that is recorded by the camera, and that's the ISO and the exposure information and the lens information that is related to each particular clip. So you can search through this or search through your catalog based on this information, which is quite handy. I'm going to search for a keyword here and type in flowers, and then that's limited my search to only the flowers clips. So then I can create my own folder for these. I can create a new flowers folder here, or more excitingly, I know it's not cool to get excited about software, but welcome to my world. If you can right click on these and add to a playlist. So I'm going to add to a new playlist and call that one flowers, say B and H. And here we've got, I'll turn off search, here we've got those particular clips that are in my playlist. So we've had Lightroom for video, this is iTunes for video now, so because you can store your different playlists. So it's a way of being able to get from this point, where you've got so many clips, to a particular playlist. And then once you've got a playlist, the typical thing is to be able to review them. So if you jump over to Review View, try saying that quickly, then over here we've got the ability to play back these clips. And so I'll talk about these controls in a second, but we're playing back in real time the clip But the interesting thing, the drum roll, the flagship feature, which we're just about to come to, cue cheers and whoops, is that yes, we're playing the next clip in the sequence. So we are able to do an assembly edit or a rough cut in your ingesting software. So this means that you can be on set in front of the client and say, look, this is why you haven't got enough coverage. You haven't got this angle. There's no way this is going to work. Or, sorry, yes, Mr. Client, this works perfectly. Thank you very much. So, and in addition to that, you can do things like use the, you know, the J, K, and L keyboard shortcuts for playing back and rewinding. So if I press L, I play forward, and press J, I play backwards. And if you press L multiple times, then you get multiple speed playback through your clips. And so you can zoom through, you can stop and start with the spacebar, you can drag and scrub on the timeline with the mouse if you need to, go forward and back. All the standard controls that you'd expect to see in your normal editing software, you don't have to relearn. So you don't have to learn a big manual to be able to figure out how to use the software. You already know how to use it. So plus, okay, here's a quick test for you. If only there was a keyboard shortcut I could use to make an in point, what could that possibly be? Let's try. Any guesses, anyone? I think you're right, yes. So yeah, I and O working exactly the same. So I can make a keyboard shortcut to my I and O, or you can just drag these left and right like so. Also you can make poster frames. Let me show you, just jump back over to a different set of clips here for a moment. Let's say we wanted to make a poster frame for this clip. I'm going to double click it, and at the beginning of the shot, that's the slate, but the actual content of this is this guy. So this is one of the stills or one of the clips from the latest film by Red Giant, Spy vs. Guy, which you can see on the redgiant.com website, which is a very amusing film about a spy who trying to get some technology disguised as a coin back from a pizza delivery guy who accidentally has it and he can't tell him about it. So it's like Spy vs. Spy, but kind of riff on that. Anyway, so this thumbnail up here isn't indicative of the actual content until you press the poster frame button here, set poster frame, and notice for the quiz later, notice the keyboard shortcut F. There is no quiz, don't worry. Unless you want to stay late tonight and have a quiz. I won't be here, but you can stay. So, and when I hit the poster frame, then you get the poster frame for that particular image. So it's another one of those small little filmmakers problems that is solved within the software. It just makes it easier to be able to navigate. Or you know what it's like on set, it's nice and relaxed and calm, and when the art director's there, they just give you loads of time for finding stuff, don't they? So this might not be your experience. Other experiences may vary or something. Anyway, so I'm going to jump back to my, look how easy it was. That was just like Command 2, Command 3. You can tell how much fun I don't have outside the house. So here we go, Flowers B&H, go back to these clips, and I'm going to jump over to Review, View, and also show something here. Let's jump over to this clip, and I'm going to investigate this button, which is the Add Marker button. So if I hit that, I can now type in Dandelion, and actually I could have done that whilst the playback was happening, because here we go, comment here, and then hit finished. And because it's GPU accelerated inside playback, it doesn't matter what graphic card you've got, it's set up to be GPU accelerated on the variety of graphics cards you get in these Macs. It means that you've got a marker. Let's hover over there. There's the dandelion marker. And so this marker text becomes metadata when you transfer your clips or you access these clips inside your editing software. And so this means that this metadata then you're able to communicate with people down the production line. You can make things, suggest color corrections. You can say, don't use this, or watch out for this particular edit. Or, as the gag goes, you can communicate with your editor if you're not talking to them. So, or if they're in another location. So also you can move these markers left and right, you can hover over it and you can delete it just by hitting the delete key. Plus, because this is Mac only for this particular release, it's in beta at the moment, which you can download for free from the redgiant.com site. The Windows version is coming, but it's Mac only at the moment, and so therefore it's designed to work on laptops in the field or on your desktop in the studio. But if you're in the field ingesting, it's so useful to be able to do things like zoom in to preview options, actual size 1:1, which means you can then check for focus, and when you're zoomed in you get this nice little kind of transparent line at the edge of the image, and then as you drag towards the bottom it then disappears to show you that's where you're at the top of the image there. So you can still look at a screen which is larger than that tiny little screen on your DSLR typically when you're filming. And I've got one of those Zaguto viewers that kind of magnifies the image, and I still can't manage to get things, as you can see, I still can't manage to get things quite in focus. It'll do, but for my Dandelion documentary. But being able to look at this on a larger screen is more useful and saves having to come back after the event and reset up the lights and get your talent back and so on. So I'm going to set this back to best fit. And oh yes, one more thing about the fact that this is a playlist is that you can reorganize it. So you can reorganize and have in and out points and so on, even after you've set in and out points, because these in and out points are going to be down here. This can be the range of clips you export to your editor, or it can be saved as metadata, so you can get the whole clip and have the in and out points in your editing software, or you could trim your clips and transcode them to a different format according to the in and out points. So talking of metadata and that sort of thing, let's just jump over to the refine view and look at what's over there. So in refine view we've got these three buttons here: color settings, metadata and keywords. Just in case it wasn't enough to have keywords on ingest and in multiple locations, you can add keywords here and you can apply presets as well. But what the key thing is the metadata. So you can have basic information about your clip, which is automatically recorded. Here is the video codec, and interestingly the checksum verification code, the information about the in and out and the duration and so on. You can also see, this is the EXIF data that was recorded by the camera. So this is now information that you can use and look at related to each individual clip. And you can also add and store slate information. So I can type in director Simon Walker, camera Canon 7D, and so on. Talent Garden. And then you can also, if you had role and scene, you can add the classic kind of metadata that's linked to your clips. But what if, well, let's have a think about this. We've got the same metadata for these three values across all the garden clips. So wouldn't it be nice if you could select, just by clicking on each of these values, select this value and select this value, and these attributes then can be copied, copy selected metadata, and then I can right click and paste them onto any of these other clips here. So let's say I right clicked on these three, I can right click and paste that metadata, and then it's stored for all of those clips. And what you can do as well, if that wasn't enough, you can select each of these, and then guess what? You can save those as a preset, which means, excitingly, that when you jump back to import, here we go, we can add metadata presets, so garden, and so I'm beginning to add all this metadata without having to do it after the event. And I can set it up to do it on ingest as well. So that just is extra time saved during production. So let's jump back over to refine and just click on this chap again. And so, then have a look. Have I got the label on here? Yes, I did, the marker. So here's also, in the markers, here's the dandelion marker. I can change the timecode if I need to. I can delete it. I can add another marker. So you've got the ability to change your mind at multiple different points in the software. So you don't have to go through the process of importing, organizing, and then reviewing and refining. You can jump in between different modes and different views to be able to see this information, and whichever clip you've got selected then stays highlighted when you go in between those different views. Great, okay, I'm going to jump all the way back to the catalogue, and let's find an image that will be useful for showing you this next feature. Da-da-da. Okay, here we go. This one will do. So, this is the clip. This is poor old Angela, who I make stand in front of the camera and try not to look bored, which she's managing to do there. What if you have shot on a particular profile on your camera, and your director wants to see your clips? Well, the standard conversation we tend to have on set is, shoot flat, shoot flat. You know this thing about shooting with low contrast and low sharpness so that you've got more leeway in grading. Then you need to apply, or at least you can, in Bulletproof, apply a lookup table or a LUT to correct for this. And the standard conversation you have with the director is, shoot flat because we want to grade, and then you play it back to them and they say, why does your image look so washed out? And you can to and fro and to and fro. So this means you're able to apply, I shot this on EOS standard, so I'm going to apply EOS standard to warm, make this image seem a little warmer. You can see before and after that, can't you? Yep. So this is like a technical correction using a lookup table, non-destructively, isn't harming your original clips. It's being graphics processor accelerated to playback in real time so that you can then apply it to every single clip on in your collection, in your folder, or in your playlist. And you've guessed it, what if you wanted to save a new preset? I've saved one called Angela Warm already, which is this setting, and then jumping way back over to import, we can do Angela Warm here. So you begin to see that this idea of going to the pub early is a reality now, because you have the ability to apply multiple corrections, not only the metadata and the color correction or the technical LUT information. You can apply it all in one go right at the point of ingest. I should say you shouldn't do this in front of the client, because they'll see so much time you're saving, and then they say, I'm not actually billing you by the hour anymore, I'm billing you for the job. That's the trade-off, just because this is taking I'm kidding. You can bill them as much as you can get away with. Sorry, as is reasonable for the job. Anyway, so here we go. What if, I want to jump back and find my Angela clip again. So what if you want to, let's choose a different one this time. What if you wanted to do a similar thing, but let's apply a LUT, the city style to warm, and you also wanted to make a slight adjustment as well. So let's have a look here. You got those users of Lux and Colorist will notice that you've got the same color correction wheels and also the same curves that you've got in Magic Bullet Lux and Colorist. So you can increase the contrast, maybe bring up the shadows slightly. There we go, like that, and then also combine that with a highlight in the yellow. There we go. So here's the before and the after. So we're making it seem a little warmer. Let's really overdo this. I shot this in Wiltshire in the UK on a February morning. So she's desperately trying not to look cold here. So this is Wiltshire, Milan. Wiltshire, Milan. So all those tricks, the art of cheating, pretending that it's either later in the day or you're changing the location for your subject. More on that in a second when we do some stuff in Lux. So once you've done this color correction. Let's say you're on set in front of the client or director and they say, well, that's quite interesting, we'd like to build on that in post-production. It always makes me laugh, by the way, because you're doing this on a laptop, probably outdoors. Did you bring your grading tent with you? The one with the 18% colored? Anyway, so if you wanted to do the standard grade, so the point I'm making is that you wouldn't necessarily grade on set, but you can do color corrections to actually get the footage looking like it's in the creative mind of the director or the client. So if you wanted to do that, what you can do is then, guess what? Yes, you can save this as a preset, but you can also export it as a lookup table, as a LUT file. And so what I find is really interesting is that LUT files are designed as technical corrective devices, but you can begin to use them as creative tools. So this LUT combines the LUT correction that we made with the camera profile, or corrector if you like, standard warm, plus a little bit of a shadow lift with the curves, plus a little bit of warming up the highlights to make it seem warmer. So all those color corrections are stored as information, which you can then export as a lookup table, and then you can use that in your editing software. And Red Giant also has a tool called LUT Buddy, which lets you export from your editing software, so for Final Cut and for Premiere Pro, for example, and then export a LUT that you could use here, and it works the other way around. You could export from here and then import that into your editing software. I know After Effects automatically has got the ability to load a lookup table, and Photoshop does as well, but natively, and Premiere Pro CC does with a Lumetri folder. Is anyone using Creative Cloud? So is anyone still on CS6? So yeah, it's a kind of a crossover period, isn't it? So if you're if you've got the CC version of Premiere Pro, then you can just use that natively, or you could use LUT Buddy, but LUT Buddy works in CS6 as well, Premiere Pro. So once you're happy with that, let's make this really strong to illustrate a point. Once you're happy with that, then you can export your clips in a variety of formats. So let's just jump over here. So the last stage in the process, if you like, is the ability to export clips using, well, you could reset the time code. You could set it up to use the original time code, but lots of DSLRs don't actually record time code onto the video. So it's quite useful to be able to reset it. And inside over here, we've got conversational mode and also layout mode. And this is it's a similar theme to the one that we found earlier on in the import view, so that you can, over here, change the timecode start, say if that you wanted to give a certain hour to the beginning of your timecode, or designate the old thing where you used to designate a tape by putting 01 as part of your timecode. And you can also conform the frame rate. So here we go. You can, inside Bulletproof, reflag your footage. So if you're shooting at, say, 60 frames a second and then you want to play it back or have the file playback as 30 or 2997, then you can do that within Bulletproof. And it doesn't affect the video, it just places a new flag, so it conforms it, so when it plays back at a different speed, so you get that nice slow-mo effect. But because this works with GoPro cameras as well, you could use the 120 frame a second setting, and you could get really nice, beautiful slow-mo for that as well. So as well as timecode, you can export in, well, the original format, and then you can choose to embed the metadata. So this is things like the in and out points, the marker comments, the slate information, the descriptions of the shot, the comments, the flags, the ratings, and so on. So all that information that you spent time, or rather you pretended to the client that you spent time setting up, you just added as a preset at the beginning of import, and it just told them to look the other way when you're doing it. All that information, all that carefully crafted information can be added to or embedded within each particular clip. And the idea is this will export whichever clips you have selected. So if you click on a playlist, you can export the whole playlist, or you can just select a number of clips and export them one by one. And you can also export XML file with information about your clips to your favorite editor. These are the XML formats at the moment. And then you can append your files with a particular naming structure or strategy, depending on what you want to export them with. So that's one version of workflow, because apparently there's more than one workflow in the entire camera world. Didn't they promise us HD was one format of HD, one frame rate? No, oh well, never mind. So every time the camera manufacturer comes out with a new camera, we have, yay, another format. So anyway, so export clips using either the original format, the original native format, or you can transcode to an editing-friendly format, say Photo JPEG or ProRes, if you've got Final Cut or Final Cut 10 or Motion installed on your machine. Those would be for the editing masters. So you could set up ProRes, and then you could choose a particular resolution, probably 1080p, and then you could choose whether or not you're going to burn in timecode. Probably wouldn't burn in timecode on your editing master. Probably wouldn't apply the color settings either, which you can do on the client version. I'll talk about that in a second. And so you can go through and apply all these particular elements before export. But, of course, you're doing this at 100 miles an hour in front of the client, so why do that when you could just previously save a preset for it and then choose Master Export, and it does it all for you, including the location where you're saving it. And this is where you would choose to export it on your, in my case, my external hard drive. Then you decide that I also like to make some client footage available, so some dailies. So you could set up dailies using H.264 and then choosing a variety of resolutions. But if you're doing that, why not save this as a preset? These are presets that I've saved previously. So in dailies, it sets this up as H.264, and in fact probably could get away with resizing this to 720, especially if I'm saving it to, say, a Dropbox folder, or I'm uploading it for the client to make it faster to upload. Timecode burned in officially so that they can comment on a particular frame, but unofficially so they can't use it in another project. I know that's not what we're supposed to use to burn in timecode, but that seems to be maybe we should have massive "don't use this clip" burned in. But anyway, so thank you, client. Yes, we're burning in timecode or frame number, or the file name and the frame numbers if you need to do it in that particular way. And also here, you can choose to respect or ignore the in and out points. And depending on what setting you've got, you either trim your media, or you can export the whole clip, and then it still has that metadata embedded with that particular clip. And so you can save it either as none or a dailies, and that also allows you to bake in those color settings. So especially useful if you've got a lookup table, so that it's applied to the footage, so that you don't have that conversation about your footage looks low contrast, and which I've had many, many times. Plus, this little button, Add, means that when you finally hit Start Export, you can set up multiple exports all at the same time, which then allows you, whoops, just jump back over to Export, which then allows you time to, well, do more work. So whilst it's exporting, you could jump back over to Import, and you could import more footage and so on, or actually jump over to your catalog and begin to rate more clips all at the same time, because you get this activity status box down at the bottom left here, which records what you happen to be doing at any one point in time. So that's the, what am I doing for time? Great, that's spot on. So that's, in general, that's bulletproof. That's the new software that Red Giant are going to be releasing very shortly. It's officially releasing in summer 2013.
Just read an email that released tomorrow, actually. So
hot off the press. There we go.
You guys are the first to know.
Cool. So in that case, you can go to redgiant.com, and you can download it from here. If you're quick, you can get the beta. But it's as Patrick says, coming tomorrow. And there's also on the website, I know I've talked for 45 minutes, slightly too quickly perhaps for all these techie details. So what if at 2 a.m. you wake up in a cold sweat thinking, wow, I really wish Simon had mentioned this, or how do you do this? No worries, you can hear my lovely voice again if you go to Red Giant TV. You lucky people. So, and here we go. Here's multiple getting started videos. Here's one. Let's choose getting started with, and scroll down. Getting started with bulletproof. Yeah. So this is the getting started tutorial for the beta version. The final release version has got a brand new series of tutorials as well. So, and it's all of those things I've mentioned as I've been talking. You may well recognize the dandelion footage as well. And if you really want, I'll let you have a copy of that particular clip because it's so exciting, isn't it? Or not. Okay, fine. So we're going to save questions till the end. So if you've got any questions about this, just remember them. That's fine. I'll be more than happy to answer any. So it's quite interesting, isn't it? This is part of my actually one whole day demo, and so I've done bulletproof in 45 minutes rather than spending several hours really getting into all the other bits and stuff like that. So there are more things to talk about, so I'll ask me at the end. But it's like, great, bulletproof, new concept. Here we go. Let's go to another thing that we're doing. So number 2 pain point is you've got your footage, you've transferred it, you've backed it up, you've added lookup tables, you've added the color corrections and so forth, and you've got your footage. Only you realize that you need to synchronize it because you were using DSLRs, for example, with those really, really powerful, fantastic microphones you get on them. Not with those tiny little holes that you can more or less get some of the footage information back on the camera, back as you play back the clip, but they're fantastic at collecting wind noise. So the standard thing is that you use dual system audio, where you use like a Tascam or a Zoom device to actually record the audio properly, and then you need to synchronize it to your footage. So let's hide all these and bring up Pluralize. I know some of you use Pluralize already. Does anyone use Pluralize 3, the new version? Yep. Do you want to do this demo? This bit? All right, I'll do it then. That's fine. So Pluralize 3 is the third version. Bizarrely, you could probably guess this. Stupid things to say during a demo. The third version of Pluralize, which is a standalone piece of software. So this works for Mac and PC. And it works with MXF files as well as MP4s and .movs on Mac and Windows. And the idea is that you start off in the software and then you synchronize your clips, and then you can send XML information about those clips to your editor without having to harm the original clips. But you could also export the files and create new media with the audio embedded in them. So there's a couple of different workflows you could work with. So how does this work? Well, the interface looks like this. You've got a bin for the camera and you've got a bin for the audio recorder. And if you need to make an extra bin, you can click on this button here. Let's jump in here, add media bin for camera. Add one of those. It's added another one up here, camera 2. You can call this camera B if you need to, so you can name these things properly. And as it says here, drag media files from a Finder window or a Windows Explorer window, or click actually on the plus button to browse for them. So I find it so much quicker to have a Finder window open, and let's find my correct folder here. Okay, Pluralize, here we go. You know this thing about pressing the Command key, holding it down, and just pressing Tab between jumping in between programs? And it's the Windows key and Tab on Windows, isn't it? So I use that all the time just to be able to switch between programs. I see so many editors moving this out the way, then moving that out the way, then moving that out the way, and then moving this out the way. Where's my program gone? So jump back over here. This is going to save your tendonitis. So, okay, we've got 2 bins and we've got a Finder window. We're going to drag in an interview. Let's go oh, this will do it over here. I've got an audio bin, I've got a camera A and a camera B. So from audio, I'm going to drag in those clips into my audio bin. And those are clips that, that's audio clips that's recorded on the external recording device. And then over in the camera here, camera A, I'm going to drag that to camera 1 and camera B like so. And this is footage that was very kindly provided to us by Rich Harrington, that fantastic DSLR and filmmaker and photographer. And this is one of his shoots in which he had a multi-camera shoot. And this is the same shot. Here you can see, here we go. So this is the same shot because you can see the shape of the waveform shows that it's the same shot. But it's not in sync because well, you can see it's not in sync. If I play this back, let's risk playing this back. Okay, prepare your eardrums. Oh good, there we go.
Knowledge that you just won't find anywhere else. James Roth is the only.
Not in sync. Great. How do we make this in sync? Rule number 1, make the client stand in another room because you don't want to make them see you hit the synchronize button and bang, that happens. It's like when you go and unlock your iPhone, they take it into the back room and they spend 20 minutes doing something to it. It's really important. They're just tapping in a code and then suddenly bring it out, $100 please. So this is the go to the pub button. It says synchronize, but we're going to change it for the 3.5 version, just say go to the pub. Not a real story. And so now you've got
like this gives you the customer service.
So these are now in sync, and what's that? You would like some more? Okay, let's give you a 2-up view so that you can choose in between these particular angles. I'll just hit mute so I can play back and talk over it. So you can see the 2 angles there, and they're playing together. And the interesting thing is that sometimes you don't have lip sync. So she's disappeared off the side of the angle as the camera pans round, so you don't necessarily know if you can check because of lip sync. But this way you can check because these things are lined up. And if you really wanted to check, there's extra tools in here that allow you to really view and zoom into the waveform. And if you need to, if something doesn't quite synchronize correctly, you can, because of noise on the background noise and something like that. There's extra tools in here to allow you to nudge the clip left and right. So rather than just being software, which is one button, it's got lots of small little other devices to help you. One of the things that it also has is an extra algorithm that allows you to try really hard, because that, if you got, as it says, increases the percentage of clips can be automatically synchronized. So it's got 2 levels of algorithm. So if you've got something which is really windy and you've got lots of wind noise on the camera, then you can kick in a different algorithm, and you can also hit the level audio function, which then increases the volume, so then it's matching the clips based on a higher volume of the original. So it's doing that behind the scenes so it can synchronize to your original clips. And the interesting thing is that this version of Pluralize 3 is 20 times faster than Pluralize 2 because of the improvements to these algorithms. And Pluralize was made by Singular Software. There's this amazing guy called Bruce Sharp who ran Singular Software with his team of engineers. And Red Giant bought them about a year ago, and all the team works now for Red Giant. And his background, he was actually a rocket scientist. And in his spare time, he was a wedding videographer. And so he chose in his spare time, he needed to do this. He needed to synchronize clips. So he made this up in his spare time. So the next time you have a day off, thinking, he did it first. Anyway, so that's sitting in the garden. You could be creating your own algorithm. Anyway, so this is why the improvements happen to version 3, because he's always teasing with this algorithm to make it faster and quicker to synchronize. And I was recently at a production company in London, and they had something crazy like 16 cameras and hours of footage, which they were previously synchronizing in their Avid system. And they found that they could synchronize it and pluralize so much more quickly. But the interesting thing is that what was the producer's response to this? It wasn't, hey, we saved all this time. It was, oh, for the next job, let's use 32 cameras. It was like, oh, thank you. So that's another conversation that we could have about saving time, you know, or versus just throwing more stuff at it. Anyway, so talking of saving time, this all works nicely if you've got the discipline to nicely, tidily put all your footage in different bins and so forth. But what if you haven't got that situation? What if somebody has just bundled all the clips into a single folder and just said, here you go? That won't take long to sort out. The computer does it all, doesn't it? This is the moment that you can say secretly, yes, it does. Because, if I find it here, oh, here we go. This is the do-it-for-me workflow. So here's a variety of clips from a multi-camera shoot, all chucked into one folder. I don't know which is camera A, which is camera B, or you could probably guess from those two, but I don't know about these particular clips, and why has this only got one shot there, and these are different formats and so forth. So to save you a lot of time, Pluralize 3 has this button. This is the takes button. And what you can do is you can drop clips onto the takes button. I'm going to drag all of these 8 or so clips, just drop them on the takes button, and it automatically will go into each particular clip and read through and analyze the waveform and try and make decisions about which, or rather, just bring them into Pluralize, ready for the software to make decisions about each particular one. And the reason why this works is because Pluralize works by doing a spectral analysis of the waveform. So you don't need time code. So you can use, like this has got a contour camera. I can't remember if contour has time code. Does contour have time code on it? Those small ones, they're like GoPros. I can't remember. Anyway. So you don't need timecode, you can synchronize stuff because of the waveform. So here we've got multiple bins. I haven't had to set these all up, they're already set up for me. I hit the go to the pub button here, and it goes through, does its stuff, and automatically lines up everything according to the waveform. You can cheer, that's absolutely fine. Yeah, ta-da! That's the whoop moment, absolutely. So I'm taking credit for loads of engineers, hard work and hours, and I'm just telling you about it. But anyway, so that's not enough? Do you want more? Okay, let's have a look at this. What if you think, well, these slightly overlap. Why can't I have these in 2 tracks rather than the four here? So let's go up to Edit, Consolidate Takes, and that means that it automatically looks through and gives you the minimum amount of tracks that you need to have for all your particular clips, including, interestingly, this is the break on this DSLR footage. So you know how when you're shooting on DSLR, you've only got so much time you can record, either because of the record limit of the camera or the amount of space that you haven't got left on your compact flash card. So it recognized this, it matched it up with the audio, but it gave each particular clip a break of exactly the right time between taking the first clip and recording the second one. So, and we can also do our thing where we choose 2 up here, and choosing, let's say, track 2, which was that one, and then track, say, 4, which was that one, and scrub in between and play those back, and so forth. So you've got him talking about the wine, the waveform playing back. I've muted the volume, by the way, and so you can't see on the top clip, you can't see him speaking, but you know it's in time, and that's the cutaway for that particular shot. So that's how difficult it is. Can you click a single button? Yes. So you too can use Pluralize. Okay, so once you've done that, once you've got the clips synchronized inside Pluralize, you can export them to your timeline like so, which once if I hit export, then you can choose a variety of different methods of exporting. So, by the way, the only reason Media Composer is grayed out here is because I don't happen to have it installed on this Mac. But there are a variety of formats that you can export. For example, I can create multicam clips for Final Cut 10, as well as exporting for Final Cut Final Cut 8. I mean Premiere Pro. So anyway, so there was a Final Cut 8, wasn't there? Anyway, so you can export non-destructively in native format an XML file, which will then reorganize your footage on the timeline and allow you to have a native workflow. Or you can select a media file option here, which then means that you can export in a, you can combine the audio. So let me show you this. If I was in this project and I hit export timeline, I could hit media files, and you can have a copy of the video files with the audio content replaced. So you can have the new pristine recorded audio from your external device actually put into a new file, and it will rewrap the file, keep the video unrecompressed, and just give you the new audio. And the second option allows you to trim it to the file length. And this is becoming a more popular workflow, especially in some broadcasters I've been visiting, because they want to provide footage that's pre-trimmed for their audience, or for their editors rather. Great. So just because we're moving on in time, I'm going to making sure I've got time for questions and the next section. So that was pain point number 2. Just remember, though, any questions you've got for this, for the end. And then we're going to start talking about the third aspect of today, which is color correcting and creating moods on the timeline using Magic Bullet Looks. I hope that was a beer. Because there's only beer allowed to be drunk during these demos. Great. Okay, so I'm going to launch this one here. I know a number of you already use Magic Bullet Looks, but does everyone grade their footage or change the contrast and that sort of thing? Is it a usual thing that you're doing? Or no? Excellent. So let me show you how to do this, how to make your footage look better. So this is the third, this is the art of cheating, number 3, which is pretending that you were shooting on a much better quality camera. Sorry, grading your clips to make them look their best. So the previous programs I showed you, Bulletproof is standalone, and Pluralize is standalone, Mac and Windows. And Magic Bullet Looks is one of the plugins in the Magic Bullet suite. Here we go. Here's the Magic Bullet suite, and it has a series of programs in the suite. We're going to look at Looks. Photo Looks is very similar. Works in Photoshop, but Magic Bullet Looks works in Premiere Pro, C6, CC, After Effects, Media Composer, Sony Vegas Pro, Final Cut 6, Final Cut 7, Final Cut 10, Motion 3, 4, and 5, and so on. So it works in a wide variety of programs. I'm going to show you stuff in Premiere Pro, and you apply it as a filter to a clip. And when you've applied it, you can hit Edit Look. And this will allow you to open up the Looks Builder, which looks a bit like this. By the way, here's a mini pro tip. If you set in Premiere Pro, if you've got your resolution set to 1/2 or 1/4, something like that, and then you open up Edit Look, it comes as a smaller size in the middle of the screen. That's because Premiere Pro is designed to, in real time, Premiere Pro is designed to allow you to play back footage. It's got this really nice, okay, it's side training alert. I train editors how to use Premiere Pro, so I can't not tell you about Premiere Pro. Anyway, so it's got this side thing here which allows you to play back footage at full or half resolution in real time. So if you can load up much higher resolution footage or multiple streams of H.264, for example, and if it's not playing back correctly, if it's skipping frames because you're on an older laptop, you can use this just to jump down a resolution step, and it means you don't have to render in Premiere Pro. And that's very handy to go in hand with an item from the panel menu down here, which is Show Dropped Frame Indicator, which is this little button over here, which then shows you if you're dropping frames or not, which is very handy. Anyway, back on track. Here we go. Click on a clip, load it up to edit look. And we've got Angela again. Try not to look bored. The nice thing about looks is that if I move my mouse over to the bottom right here, I can open up the tools drawer. And the tools drawer has lots and lots of tools based on, or the conceit is it's based on the sort of real world processes you go through if you were applying these particular treatments or setups in real life. So for example, in the subject you can have a fill light or a spotlight to bring up the shadows, and in the lens area you can drag on a vignette onto your footage. And so the idea is you can drag on a Colorist 3-way. Recognize these from Bulletproof. So they're exactly the same method of controlling the highlights and the shadows. And what you can do is, say, make the highlights brighter, make the shadows darker, and so forth. And this idea of making things brighter and darker, have a look. When I'm increasing the height of the highlights, have a look top left to see what's going on over here. So what we're doing is we're stretching up the contrast. So the greater the distance between the brightest highlights and the darkest shadows, the larger the contrast. And if I do it the other way, then you get less of a different distance. I'm moving this down and moving the shadows up. That means you get less of a difference between the brightest and the darkest, and that's a flatter look. That's less contrast, and so technically you have that particular setup, and creatively it tells a different type of story. So I'm going to reset all of these. I'll come back to the difference between these contrast settings in a second. So I'm just going to slightly increase this and make it look slightly darker. Here's the before and after. You probably get a more accurate color representation on this screen here, although it's slightly saturated. And the idea is that it brings up the detail. Our eyes like to see lots of detail in images. And it's the way that the rods and cones are set up in our eyes. Somebody once described it as the reason why we see detail first and colour second is because we're always looking out for that predator hiding in the bushes going to attack us. I don't necessarily know if that's the case, but certainly we like to see high contrast images. They're very appealing. And also, I'm going to move over that to be a slightly warmer image. You can turn off and on each particular tool. Like I could turn this off and on here to preview what it looked like before, or every tool in the tool chain by using this button. And this means when you've got a couple of tools, so I could add on, say, my favorite tool, which is the vignette. And the vignette device is to concentrate your audience's attention on where you want them to be looking in the image. So here I'm slightly darkenizing, making more dark. I'm struggling to find the translation. We call it darkenating in the UK. No, I'm just saying this incorrectly. So here's the before and after, and I'm turning this off and on either by using the tool chain there or by using the / key next to the carriage return to do all one, turn these off and on. So the idea is that now we have less of the highlights at the side of the image, and we're concentrating more on our main protagonist. So I'll probably bring up the shadows a little bit to give some more detail in there, not too much to wash it out. The other nice thing about things like a real-world vignette is that it has edge softness. So I can drag another tool. There's a vignette tool and there's an edge softness tool. And I can drag this onto here. And the idea is that if you just drag this tool on the screen, you can place it wherever you want. And everything inside the central area is not blurred, and everything outside is blurred by however much the blur parameter is, top right. And so this enables you to be able to change the aspect, change the feathering setting and things like so that you can really begin. I'll change the blur setting to 2. You can double click on these things or just type in 2, say. And this gives you the ability to slightly blur the background, so this is before and after. Now you're really beginning to focus on your main character, as well as making my lens look much more expensive, which is this is the expensivizer preset I could type in. You can make a custom, okay, let's call this the expensivizer, there we go. Hashtag, obviously. So expensivizer, and you can save these as a custom preset because all these tools aren't the best thing about looks. I mean, it's a great thing about them. The best thing about looks is you can set up loads and loads of presets. So it comes with loads of presets anyway, but in the custom area here, can't believe I actually typed that, but there we go. The expensivizer is over here. Get my zooms and zoom in. Yes, it's going to let me. So I've saved this as a preset. It's now available to all the other programs that I've got that host looks on my system. You can share it with other people as well. You can export that look as a particular look and share it with other people too. Did you ever watch that TV show House with Hugh Laurie? They had this really interesting effect where they would have a really, really narrow blurred mask, which would be something like this, and they would have it so that you could just see his eyes and the rest of the image would seem blurred. It would look unnatural, and the whole point of this would that he would be very close in front of the camera and he would try not to move, and it would illustrate our connection with the character by looking at his eyes, and it causes us, because we can't see the rest of the image, to think or consider what he's thinking. In that case, he was solving a medical dilemma. And they did a similar thing in Heroes. What was the character's name? I read mine. Matt Pinkman? Anyway, there was a character in the show Heroes where they did a similar thing. Zoomed straight in, and you could see what he was thinking. And I thought they did this with a 50mm lens. They did this optically until on one particular show, small adjustment. You realise you're on camera now, don't you?
Yeah, time code.
And cut. So now I have to remember what I was saying. So I thought they were doing this optically with, say, a 50mm lens, but actually, once I saw on one of the scenes, somebody walked behind him into the mask, into the blur, and then out again. So they were doing it in post-production. They were cheating as well. So you could do it by manipulating these edge softness elements here, or you could do it using, there's another tool in the lens area called swing tilt. And this echoes the kind of effect you can get from the tilt shift cameras. I always get confused why it's called swing tilt. It's a tilt shift or the swing lens effect. So you can drag it on here, and it's got the idea is that everything on this plane is in focus and everything that isn't on this plane, so if I move this down, say, is blurred according to how much blur you want to put there. So let's put the blurinizer on 3. And you can also adjust the plane like so. So you can adjust it to be like on angles across the screen. Plus another tip is, if you zoom all the way out, here's the zoom, if I zoom all the way out here, then it gives me the ability to stretch out this to its maximum, and so I increase the feather distance between the top and the bottom like so. And I can click over here, oops, and then move it around, and so you can get a more subtle version of this particular effect. So it's not quite so blurred, and then you can just pick it up here, say. So the idea behind this is it's actually designed to help you fake depth of field, but here we're using it as a storytelling device to concentrate the mind of the viewer to consider what the talent is thinking. But you can use it in a different way. Let's jump over here. Have I got my other clip? I think it's here. Yes, here we go. This is another shot that I shot in my back garden in Wiltshire, and it's a very long drive. Anyway, the idea behind this is that I can use the swing tilt lens or swing tilt tool to pretend that I wasn't using just my iPhone. I took my whole production kit with me, and probably a little less blur, about 3, something like that, 3. And I can just move this up and down and then zoom in and out in a similar fashion. But the interesting thing about this is, especially with a little more contrast, so I'm going to drag on the curves tool and just drag right on curves here to increase the contrast. This is the classic S curve you see. I try to replicate how film reacts to light. So occasionally, so it's the brighter highlights and the deeper shadows, which increases the contrast. And so this has got a really interesting effect of focusing on the middle ground here, which makes it look like a miniature. So this is like you're filming a diorama or something similar. So here's before and afterwards. And this simulates the effect. Have you seen that show Sherlock? It's a UK show, and they've got this particular type of effect or a similar style in their opening credits. That's became very popular for a couple of years, to be able to suggest that this is actually a much smaller environment, and then the reason why you had this low depth of field is because you were shooting a miniature on a 50mm lens or similar. So this is cheating. This is how not to use the look properly and still get different results or nice results out of it. So, okay, let's talk more about some of these seeing colour things. So here would be an example. This actually is around the corner from me. I live in Wiltshire, which looks pretty much exactly like it does in The Hobbit in Hobbiton. So let's put looks on this clip. Have I got looks on here already? No. Okay, rather than going through all my effects, video effects, going down to Magic Bullet. These are all the effects that you get inside the suite, so Colorist and Cosmo and Denoiser and so on. We're going to throw on looks in a second. But it's much faster to be able to type in here and just type in looks and then find that clip. So another piece of free Premiere Pro training for you. Right, I'm going to open up looks, and just to replicate that same thing here, here we go. If I throw on the swing tilt lens, drag this down like so, this is really what it's designed for. Give a blur size slightly less. Here we go. So now this is the before and after. Let's give this a slight bit of contrast as well. Always works nicely. Here we go. So that's the before and after. Is that enough blur on there? Shall I redo the blur? Can you see the difference between the before and after? The foreground here especially is blurring. Then we got the middle distance, and then the background is out of focus. So maybe I'll push this down here. So then that's more blurred in the background. So that's the kind of idea behind this process. Okay, right. talking of which, see the distance is going slightly murky, slightly blue there. This, I've got another back garden shot, which is this one, which you may recognise. And you'll notice that, are these buildings actually painted a different colour to these ones? No, because the reason is that when light gets filtered through, or scattered more technically, through the atmosphere, it begins to reveal the blue wavelength of light, partly because that's the way the wavelengths are scattered. So when you look into the distance, you tend to see items begin to be coloured more blue. So that's one grading trick to be able to make a suggestion. If you've got somebody standing next to a building and you colour the building slightly blue, then that's going to say to the audience, this is why, or it gives some depth because it's separating the protagonist from the background, even though they might be standing in front of it. And it is why in Vegas the buildings seem closer than they are, because the air is so dry, then there's less physical water vapor to see the light through, and also because they're so big, then you think, oh, that's only a 5-minute walk, and then you're still walking 20 minutes later. So that general concept of blue receding is partly visual and partly something that we recognize from real life. Next time you go and look at a mountain range or something in the distance, you begin to see that it's slightly more blue. So the converse is true for oranges and reds. They kind of project forward. So on a clip like this, let's make this a bit bigger, then we're concentrating on our two heroes in the middle of the shot. But on the next clip, where are you looking? Are you noticing this is especially prevalent in these screens here, you're noticing the subtle orange dress hanging in the background. And that's the difference between these two shots. This is the before and after. These two, oops, wrong shortcut, before and after. So that, here we go. If you've got an element which is slightly more orange, then it's a good idea to remove that from the shot before you actually start filming. It's just so it's a general theme. There are methods to be able to reduce the saturation, which I'll show you in a second, which is the difference between these two, this shot. So it's, this green is less saturated than this one, so you probably see it closer on this shot here. So here's the before and after. So there are methods to be able to key out and bring down the saturation or something which makes it less distracting in the shot, which is really the point of grading. Partly we're introducing higher contrast to make these things look a little crisper, and partly we are trying to make the viewer look where we want them to look. So let's jump over here. Talking of the light and colours of light, this is a plate from a shot which was correctly white balanced, and the next clip is the same shot several minutes later but incorrectly white balanced, and it's a more blue shot. You probably noticed that. Let's make these a little bigger. So the idea is, here we go, before correctly white balanced, not correctly white balanced. That's because the color of light changes. So we've done filmmaking, we've done physics of light. Let's do biology of eye. Let's do physics of light. There we go. And the reason this is more blue is because outside light tends to be more blue in the highlights than indoor light, especially if you've got fluorescent bulbs, which is why we white balance cameras. And lots of cameras have got these settings to be indoors or outdoors, so they adjust for that particular amount of light. So it's a good idea to be able to balance your shots so that one doesn't look more blue. But it's interesting using that theory of light so that on an overcast day when there's not too much sun, the light can seem ever so slightly blue. And on a bright sunny day, especially in a bright sunny afternoon, the light seems ever so slightly yellow or orange because that's how the colour is changing. And you can use this in grading to your advantage. So here are some of my local friends back in the UK. and the director has said to me that I need to make the shot seem as if it's filmed later on in the day. So I am going to use, I could use looks. Let's see, I could use a copy of looks, throw it on here, and begin to use the three-way color corrector, these three wheels here. Or I could use another tool in the Magic Bullet suite called Colorista. And Colorista overlaps with looks in some extent because it has tools like the three-way color correction ability, color wheels rather, but it also has the ability to drag on the exposure and also keyframe the exposure. So they tend to be used in tandem together. So if you want to set up a look for an entire shot, you can use looks to manipulate all the highlights, midtones and the shadows. And if you want to animate any of those parameters, you can use Colorista to do that. But just since I've got Colorista loaded here, I'm going to talk about this. So let's drag this window over here, make it slightly bigger. Right, so I want to make this seem as if it's slightly later in the day, and a really great control for that is this one, the mid-tone luminance slider. So if I increase the mid-tones, they get brighter, and if I reduce them, they get darker. So that's the middle range of the brightness in the image, not the bright highlights, not the shadows, just the middle range. And it's interesting because this control really can be used as an ambient light control. So if I reduce it slightly, I'm beginning to change, or the time machine control, I'm beginning to change the time of day. So as I drag it down, the ambient light becomes less, and it begins to simulate the time passing. So it could be early in the morning, or it could be late in the afternoon. Those two lighting situations have very similarly colored light. We tend to have a more romantic association with the end of the day because we're still asleep in the morning. We haven't got up yet, so we don't see the sunrise, but we're more likely to see the sunrise. But technically, the way that the Earth spins and the way the light works is that those two times of the day have very similar lighting scales. So in any case, as well as reducing the time of day, I've got a small other little problem in that if I continue doing this, something doesn't look quite right. So you can see on this screen here, I'm reducing the saturation quite significantly, and when you, reducing the brightness, but when you do that, you can't help but affect the perceived saturation when you're working in RGB color space. And that's the way that it works when you adjust contrast on an image. So if you are doing that, what you need to do is to drag down on the primary saturation here, just drag down slightly to reduce the saturation so that you're reducing the amount of color which is visible. This goes back to more physics, back to a physics lesson I had when I was at school. And in fact, you could use this as homework. Try doing this tonight. Try standing in a room without the light on and then slowly closing the door. And then as you close the door, the light coming in from the other room gets less and less, but you'll notice, interestingly, the colors become less vibrant. And so it's because our eyes want to see detail first and color second. And there's this really interesting moment when all of a sudden, bang, then just as you close the door, just as it's going almost pitch black, your eyes see things in black and white. So it's because that the color information isn't as important as the detail information, and our eyes fool us constantly to allow us to adjust to different lighting situations. So it's an interesting thing. That's your homework tonight. There's no test, but there is homework. So once you've done that, you can then begin to, say, bring down the highlights slightly, because the highlights do reduce. And then deepen the shadows, because the shadows at night, first thing in the morning, are quite dark. So this we're getting there. This is kind of less bright than this. This is definitely later in the day. But there's another key element to be able to really suggest the difference between middle of the day and nighttime, which is the amount of blue light that is in this scene. And it's because the way blue light works, we tend to see blue light more readily because of its shorter wavelength in the evening than we see red light. This is why we have Blu-ray discs, because the light ray can be focused to a smaller width because it's the wavelength is smaller. But when you see a movie, you tend to see things flooded in blue, don't you? You tend to see really blue. Because, well, why is that? Is it because we actually see blue at night, or is it being exaggerated for effect? It's probably a combination of the two. So if you have to do 2 adjustments only to change the time of day, what you can do is change the luma slider, this one here, or change the change the blue highlight, so you can get a much more convincing difference between the blue and the later in the day. So this is before and after. And it's much cheaper to shoot your sheep at night than it is, during the day than it is at night. What if it is during the day and you need to illustrate that it's later on in the afternoon? If you had to do a single correction, you could move this towards orange here, turn this on, and then you begin to get more of that orange light that you get later on in the afternoon, possibly a little bit less of the midtones. And interestingly, another adjustment you can make is to begin to add some mid-tone purples into the image, because good old impressionists, I think have I got a image here from Haystacks, here we go. When the impressionists were making paintings, they painted what they saw rather than what they thought they saw, and they saw lots of blues and lots of purples inside the shadows of their images. So if you add this purple inside as well as a correction, it begins to evoke the afternoon, because that's how the light is working with our eyes. So here's it with no midtones pushed towards purple, and here's a little more, and that really helps mix with the yellow here to inform us of the change of time of day. You can see it much more readily on these screens here. So this is kind of middle of the day, more bluish light. This is later on in the afternoon. There's a very physical time change that we can see between those two circumstances. And you can do this for dramatic effect. So anyone watch Game of Thrones, by the way? Yep. So this is what snow actually looks like. So this isn't Game of Thrones snow. This isn't scary enough for Game of Thrones. Let's do this with looks. By the way, this technique I'm showing you, and some of these clips, are from my colour correction course on lynda.com, where I go through lots more of these particular time of day and location kind of effects and so forth. But this particular clip, if I wanted to colour this, make it seem later in the day, you can use my same mid-tone adjustment slider, like so. And that's a little more dramatic. I can bring the shadows down slightly. So that's the original. That's slightly scarier, not really scary, it's just later in the day, isn't it? Next time we watch Game of Thrones, look how much blue they've got in the highlights. So this is now beginning to get to that kind of level, but it's not anything like scary enough. Now we've got, okay, so this is USA, and this is Westeros. USA, Westeros. The third or fourth unofficial title of this whole presentation is How to Ruin Movies for You, because the next time you're watching Game of Thrones, you won't be thinking, oh, his so-and-so is going to, another character's been killed. Sorry, no spoilers, don't worry. But you won't be thinking that, you'll just be thinking, how blue is that snow? And then you'll be completely taken out of the story and think, thanks a lot, Simon, you've ruined TV for me. So in that vein, I can ruin TV even more for you. Let's jump over to this next Here we go, give myself a little more space here. Da-da-da. Where was I going? Here we go, great. Okay, this is one of a series of clips from, this is a Red Giant short film called Plot Device, in which our hapless hero Ben here buys a device from eBay, and every time he presses the button on the device, it changes the color genre he's in. These are the untreated clips. So it changes the genre, and so it literally is a plot device. Boom, boom. I'll be here a week, try the veal. So the idea behind this particular series of, well, this film, which you can watch on the Red Giant site, is that you can completely change the story just by changing the colors. So here he is looking at the massive spaceship that's just docked above his house. There's a massive big alien attack craft. But this doesn't look like a Michael Bay movie, does it? How do we make this look more science fiction-y? The color wheel, have I got really oh, here we go, color wheel here, which is these bluey greens are on the opposite side of the color wheel to orange. So in this shot, in fact, let's choose this one here. Here we go. Right, here our poor hero is about to smash down his device, his plot device, on the ground, because why just press the button to change your device and free yourself from the alien attackers when you could, in true dramatic action movie style, just hold this up whilst you're on your knees and smash it onto the floor. So that's another one of the differences between genres. You wouldn't do this in a romantic comedy. So it's interesting, not only that, and how the camera moves in between genres, as well as the colors. But if I wanted to change the effect on this clip, I can tell the client that it's going to take me hours and hours, because I'm going to use looks and really adjust these the color correction in Magic Bullet Looks and tweak it perfectly, and spend a large amount of time making sure I've got the perfect correction. Tell them it's going to be hours, send them out for a coffee, and then just drag on Magic Bullet Mojo, which if I drag it onto this clip like so, instantly colors this clip to the correct blues in the shadows and keeps the skin tone correct. So how is it doing this? Let me show you here. This is before and after. It's doing it by knowing which are the skin tones in the image and knowing which are the shadows and the highlights and the midtones. And it keeps the skin tones accurate whilst it colors those other ones, those bluey greens in the shadow. So here it is again. And this is the art of cheating, because you can do this all with sliders. You can drag on the mojo. How much mojo do you need in your image? Here we go. Then, and also you can tint it. So you can tint it more towards green, which is green is horror, isn't it? And teal is action movie. I know those aren't specific, but the next time you watch a horror movie, look how much green there is in the shadows. I'm just going to reset this and just drag this over again like so. Also, you can balance how much of the highlights and the midtones you want colored with that skin tone. So if I drag the balance to the right, it means that everything is colored more of a blue tint. And if I drag it to the left, you've got more of that desert, earthy skin tone applied to the shadows and the highlights. So it's interesting, a tool like this has the ability to be able to help you change genre. So Transformers, Resident Evil. Transformers, Resident Evil. So how much evil do you want in this, the client? You can really use the punch it, here we go, punch it, and make this much more dramatically contrasty, or bleach it out and get a kind of bleach bypass look very quickly. Because what Mojo is doing, it's doing those specific color corrections under the hood, and it's doing them in 32-bit space, or rather RGB space, and it's doing it with the same corrective quality as you would do if you were using the color wheels, but it's doing it with a series of corrections for you. I've got one more little trick I want to show you, and then it's questions and free stuff time. So let's just jump back over here. I'll say two more quick little tricks. Okay, well back to Angela, and I'm going to throw on looks. Right, the problem with making your friends stand in as models is that you pay for it later when it's freezing cold and her skin's becoming much more mottled, because this is a February cold morning in the UK and she's desperately trying not to look cold. But it also means that her skin isn't looking the greatest that it could. So if only there was a way where we could just target her skin tone and just smooth that by keeping the rest of the image more intact and less smooth. Well, there is with looks, because there is a tool called Cosmo to do a cosmetic treatment. And you can tell that they were having a nice afternoon when they came up with this icon. So anyway, so if you drag this on, what it does, it targets, in the same way that Mojo was able to target just skin tone, it targets the skin tone, and using the skin soften tool, you can drag right, and here's the before and after, and you can, here's before and after, you can see her skin is softening, but her eyes are staying sharp. And so that's allowing us to adjust for those shots which weren't lit correctly. Like I didn't use a reflector or a fill light on this particular shot. All the light's coming from above, and also to hide the fact that it's really cold and mottling her skin. In addition to that, you've got the ability to target individual colours inside looks. Here we go, to target some of the general colours that turn up in typical environments. So like orange for skin tone, blues for skies, green for foliage, and red for, well, if I desaturate this, if I drag this pin and drag it into the middle of the wheel, I can desaturate her lipstick. Or I can oversaturate it and give it a slight pop, or move it over to more of a magenta feel, like so. And so this kind of trick where you can isolate one particular element very quickly and then color it and just change its saturation is very nice to be able to do that when you are working at 100 miles an hour. So this is, again, cheating with Magic Bullet looks. And one more tiny quick thing I wanted to show you was cheating to recreate the look of or bring out dappled sunlight in images. So here we go. I'm going to just grab a shot. Here is this. Oh no, I know which one it is. It's simulating sunlight, enhancing sunlit scenes. Here we go. So this is another of the lynda.com examples. But in this shot, what I want to do is exaggerate these highlights. So just like the artists of fame, have I got one here? Renoir, there we go. So Renoir, when he painted paintings, used to add these really subtle, fine details on the highlights of images. And this really pulled out the highlight. I'm sure he didn't call them highlights, or he may have called them highlights, but he probably didn't call them midtones. And so we can simulate this process like so by echoing some of those key techniques. So I've got looks applied to an adjustment layer here in Premiere Pro. So open up the looks. And here's the before and afterwards. Notice on this on this is a video, isn't it? On this video, we've got a slight pinkish hue because of the way that I've manipulated the curves tool here. And that's echoes the Impressionists' techniques of adding in lots of those soft magentas and pinks, especially when they were working with female subjects, which they painted a lot. And it has a really interesting way of suggesting that a more romantic feel into your image. But this is what I wanted to show you, the star filter in looks. And the star filter is accentuating the highlights like so. And it's doing it, if I turn it off and on, can we see that on the if you just look at this area here, if I'll zoom in slightly, well, we're looking just at this highlight. So it's off and on, and it's picking up just a little bright highlight because the star filter is, well, you shouldn't really use this star filter like this. Star filter should be used just to add like glints, and it adds this kind of thing into your image. So that's a slightly less subtle treatment. And so I've set this up to be a really small size. Let's undo this again. So 1% size and very little boost. And that means that that very small star that's being added can be applied to just the brightest highlights of the image. And that's because I've got the threshold here, show threshold. If I set that to on, I can then drag this left and right, and the more I drag it, the more I apply this effect to more and more of the image. So not just the highlights like so, but I could apply it to lots of the image like so, and then that's much more of a flashback. I mean, that's quite a nice treatment anyway, but here's before and after. So it's being applied to lots of the shot. If I then drag this threshold slider to make sure that I'm just targeting just that tiniest amount of highlight like so, then I'm highlighting just those elements. And this works particularly well for jewellery, especially if you've got a glint on jewellery, or if you want to bring out a glint in somebody's eyes, if you're using a reflector or a light source or one of those ring light sources, then they will tend to have a glint in their eye, and so you can pull this out and get a nice little effect like so. So again, cheating. It's not designed for that, but or it's not designed for hair highlights like this. It's designed for little sparkles, but there's a nice little way of bringing out those details. Great. Okay. This is only one bit. I've got like another 5 hours to go. However, we don't have 5 hours. We're almost. Have we really been almost 2 hours? My goodness! And you're all still awake. This is fantastic. So, as a reminder, you can go to RGTV to see more about how to learn. There's loads more techniques listed up there, something like 60 tutorials or 200 hours or something crazy like that. We are at 6 o'clock, so thank you and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Whether you're a hobbyist or a professional, B&H has the answers to your questions. Experience a world of technology at our New York City Superstore. Connect with us online or give us a call. Our staff of experts is happy to help.